Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at verses 20 to 24 of Surah Al-Baqarah.
Sounds good.
These verses are really fascinating because they not only talk about creation and gratitude, but they also lay down this challenge that's echoed throughout history.
Yeah, it's really interesting how it's kind of a timeless message that still resonates today.
Before we get ahead of ourselves, maybe we should hear the verses first in English.
Yeah, sure. The verses state, "O mankind, worship your Lord, who created you and those before you, that you may become righteous. He who made for you the earth a resting place and the sky a canopy, and sent down from the sky rain, thereby producing fruits as provision for you. So do not attribute equals to Allah while you know that He alone created all. And if you are in doubt about what we have revealed to our servant, then produce a surah the like thereof, and call upon your witnesses other than Allah if you should be truthful. But if you do not, and you will never be able to, then fear the fire whose fuel is people and stones, prepared for the disbelievers."
Wow, those verses are powerful.
Definitely. And they really pack a punch in terms of the message they're conveying.
I think one of the things that strikes me right away is how it starts by addressing all of mankind.
Yeah, that's a really important point. Right from the beginning, it's emphasizing that this message isn't just for a select group of people, it's universal. It's for everyone.
Exactly. And that kind of sets the stage for this idea that there's a choice to be made. The verses leading up to this talk about the righteous, the disbelievers, and the hypocrites. So it's like we're being presented with a crossroads here.
Right? It's like a call to action. Choose righteousness, choose to believe and follow the path that's been laid out for you. Now, getting into the results of worship, the text says that you may become righteous.
So it's saying that worship is this path to righteousness, right?
Exactly. It's not about making God greater, but about making us better.
It's a school, a means of self-improvement, and a way to develop a sense of responsibility.
Right. It's about cultivating your character and becoming someone of value.
And this idea of feeling responsible is a key part of being a good person.
It's a core part of what the text refers to as righteousness.
Now, about that phrase, "and those before you," it's really interesting.
It is. The text is emphasizing that God is the creator of everyone, including our ancestors.
This was probably a point of contention back then, with idol worship being tied to ancestral traditions.
Right. It's a direct challenge to those who justify their polytheism that way.
Basically, the message is that the one God created you and everyone before you.
So no matter how far back you go, monotheism is the original and correct path.
It's about connecting us to a lineage of believers all the way back.
And it serves as another proof for the existence of the one true God.
Wow, I think that really helps to clarify things. Thank you for that request.
Absolutely.
And then it goes on to highlight all these incredible blessings that we have, like the earth being this stable resting place for us. I mean, can you imagine if the earth wasn't stable? What if we were constantly being thrown around?
It's something we take for granted, isn't it? The stability of the earth.
Totally. It is, and the text mentions that it's not too hot or cold, not too soft or hard. It's just perfect for us.
And that's where Imam Ali ibn Hussein, peace be upon him, comes in. He expanded on this idea.
Oh yeah, tell me more about that.
Well, he says that God made the earth suitable for our nature, compatible with our bodies. He didn't make it extreme in any way that would harm us.
Wow, that's a really beautiful way to put it. It really highlights the thoughtfulness of creation. We depend on gravity every second of our lives, but I don't think I ever really stopped to appreciate it before.
It's true, and it's not just about the earth. The verses go on to talk about the sky as this protective canopy. It's almost poetic the way it's described.
It is, and you know what's fascinating? That imagery actually aligns with our scientific understanding of the atmosphere.
Right. It acts as this shield protecting us from harmful radiation, space debris. It even gives us the beautiful blue color of the sky that we see every day.
It's incredible how something that seems so simple and familiar can have so much depth to it.
Exactly.
So these verses we're looking at talk about how God created the earth as a resting place, the sky as a canopy, and sent down rain, right?
Exactly. They're highlighting these huge blessings that we often take for granted.
So the earth being a resting place, it's this stable foundation for our lives.
Yes, it's described beautifully as a place of comfort and balance.
It is, and the text mentions that it's not too hot or cold, not too soft or hard. It's just perfect for us.
And that's where Imam Ali ibn Hussein, peace be upon him, comes in. He expanded on this idea.
Oh yeah, tell me more about that.
Well, he says that God made the earth suitable for our nature, compatible with our bodies. He didn't make it extreme in any way that would harm us.
Wow, that's a really beautiful way to put it. It really highlights the thoughtfulness of creation.
It does. And then the verses talk about the sky as a canopy, which is also really interesting.
It makes you think of the atmosphere, like this protective shield around us.
Right. It's what protects us from meteors and harmful radiation.
The verses even reference a narration that describes the sky as the blue color of the atmosphere.
Yes, exactly. In that narration, Imam Jafar, peace be upon him, is speaking to al-Mufaddal about the sky.
And he asks him to reflect on the color of the sky and its design, right?
Exactly, and he points out that its blue color is the most compatible with our eyes.
It makes sense that the atmosphere would be the intended meaning here, since the sky is blue.
Yes, it's the dense air surrounding the Earth that gives it that color.
And that's a key piece of evidence that the sky being referenced is the atmosphere.
Exactly, and that's what the verses mean when they talk about the sky as a canopy.
It's really fascinating how the text blends these scientific insights with spiritual concepts.
It really is, and it all connects back to that idea of God's blessings and how he provides for us.
It's amazing how the verses touch on all these aspects of our world, isn't it?
It is, and it connects it all back to God's creation and blessings.
And that's where the rain comes in, right? The rain from the sky brings life and sustenance.
Exactly. It's this essential element for growth and nourishment.
And Imam Ali ibn Hussein, peace be upon him, also talked about the rain as a blessing.
He described it as being sent down in different forms, reaching all parts of the earth.
That's beautiful, how it saturates the land and then brings forth all kinds of fruits.
He also points out that God sends the rain gradually so it doesn't overwhelm or spoil the land.
Wow, it makes you really appreciate all the little details, doesn't it?
It does, and how everything works together in perfect balance.
It really does bring a new perspective to the earth, sky, and rain.
And then right after highlighting all these incredible blessings, the tone shifts and we're presented with this bold challenge.
Yeah, you mean the part where it challenges anyone to produce a surah like it?
Exactly. It's like saying, go ahead, try to replicate this if you think you can.
It's almost like a mic drop moment. It always sends chills down my spine.
It's definitely a powerful statement. Verses 23 and 24, they bring like a different kind of energy to the table.
Okay.
They introduce a challenge. It's almost like a dare.
Yeah.
It's like saying, okay, we've talked about the evidence of creation. Now let's talk about the Qur'an itself.
Okay, so verse 23 says, "And if you are in doubt about what we have revealed to our servant, then produce a surah the like thereof, and call upon your witnesses other than Allah, if you should be truthful."
Okay.
Wait, hold on. What's a surah?
Good catch.
Okay.
A surah is basically a chapter in the Qur'an. So the verse is challenging anyone who doubts the Qur'an's divine origin to produce a chapter, similar in eloquence, content, and impact.
It's a pretty bold challenge.
It is, and it's placed very strategically
Yeah.
after those verses about creation.
Okay.
It's like presenting the Qur'an itself as another form of evidence.
Okay.
Another miracle.
So what happens in verse 24?
Verse 24 kind of ups the ante.
Okay.
It says, "But if you do not, and you will never be able to, then fear the fire, whose fuel is people and stones, prepared for the disbelievers."
Wow. Okay. Things just got serious.
It did.
What's the deal with the stones as fuel for this fire?
Well, there are different interpretations of that part.
Okay.
Some scholars say it refers to idols.
Okay.
Some say it refers to sulfuric rocks that burn really fiercely.
Okay.
Others just see it as emphasizing the intensity of the fire.
Right.
But regardless, the overall message is very clear. There are consequences for rejecting truth. And it's not just an intellectual debate.
So we have this call to worship one God,
Right.
evidence of creation,
Yeah.
and then this challenge regarding the Qur'an.
It's like a building crescendo of ideas,
Like that.
each one reinforcing the other.
Yeah.
And this idea of the Qur'an's uniqueness ties into another really important concept, the subtle forms of polytheism that the verses warn against.
Okay.
It's not just about worshiping idols.
Okay.
It goes deeper than that. The text makes it clear that it's about anything we place on the same level as God.
So it's about recognizing that all power and influence comes from God.
And not attributing that power to other beings or objects.
So like if someone says, if it weren't for so-and-so, I would be ruined, that would be a problem.
Yeah, because it's implying that someone else has control over your fate instead of God.
It's like giving that person or thing a divine status.
Right. Polytheism can be very subtle.
And it's easy to fall into without realizing it.
The text refers to that. It says that this polytheism can be more hidden than an ant on a black stone.
Wow, that's a really powerful image.
It is. It shows how much we need to be mindful of our beliefs and attitudes.
Because it's not just what we say, but also how we think and feel.
And the text goes on to say that some people believe in God but also associate others with him.
It's like they're not fully placing their trust in God alone.
Exactly. They might rely on other things or people in addition to God.
It's a reminder to us that we must completely trust in God.
And this also applies to things like superstitions and fortune-telling.
Right. Anything that suggests that something other than God has control.
Yes, polytheism is about giving power and divinity to anything other than the one God.
Exact. It's a call to be mindful
Yeah.
of our language
Okay.
and the underlying beliefs
Okay.
it might reflect.
Okay.
It's about making sure
Right.
that our ultimate reliance is
Yeah.
on God,
Yeah.
not on any created thing.
That's a really interesting point. Makes
Yeah.
you think about how our words shape our understanding.
Right.
And it ties back to that challenge we were talking about earlier.
About imitating the Qur'an.
Absolutely.
The fact that no one has been able to
Right.
successfully replicate it.
Yeah, it's seen as this continuous miracle,
Right.
further reinforcing its claim of divine origin.
And you mentioned earlier that there are 4 key qualities
Right.
that make the Qur'an a really strong argument
Yeah.
for Islam. Could we maybe unpack those a bit more?
Of course. First, there's its eloquence.
Okay.
The Qur'an is described as speaking for itself,
Mhm.
not needing a prophet to explain it.
So unlike some other miracles,
Right.
that might require some interpretation
Yeah. Yeah.
or context.
Yeah.
But the Qur'an is meant to be self-evident.
Exactly. The second quality is its eternal nature.
Okay.
It's not bound by time or place,
Okay.
making it relevant across generations and cultures.
So it's not seen as a historical artifact.
No.
It's something that speaks to humanity as a
Yeah.
whole.
Exactly. And that connects to the third quality. Its universality.
Okay.
The message of the Qur'an is addressed to all of humanity.
Remember that call to all mankind
Yeah.
in verse 2.21?
Right.
It all ties together.
It does.
What's the 4th quality?
The fourth quality the sources highlight is its spiritual nature.
Okay.
It's about its impact on hearts and minds.
So it's not about like performing spectacular feats,
Right.
demonstrating physical power.
It's about transforming people from the inside out.
Now, that's not to say that there haven't been people
Right.
who have tried to challenge
Mhm.
the Qur'an's claim of inimitability.
Of course, like Musaylima.
Right. That guy Musaylima,
Musaylima the liar.
the one who claimed to be a prophet.
Yes, he actually tried to write his own verses.
Oh, really?
The sources include a couple of his attempts,
Yeah.
and they highlight the stark contrast in quality.
Like what? Give us an example.
Okay, so, like, he tried to imitate Surah Al-Baqarah, you know, the one that talks about the wind scattering, the clouds raining.
Right.
Well, he came up with stuff like scatterers scattering, reapers reaping, winnowers winnowing.
Oh, wow. That's pretty basic.
Yeah, it lacked that depth, that eloquence that you find in the Qur'an.
It's like comparing a doodle to a masterpiece.
Exactly.
Oh.
And it's not just about the words themselves, it's about the impact they have.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
There's something about the Quran that just resonates on a whole other level.
And that's what so many people have recognized throughout history, even those who weren't Muslim.
Really? Like, who are we talking about?
Well, for instance, there's Thomas Carlyle.
Carlyle, the historian.
Yeah, the one who wrote The History of the French Revolution. He was known for being pretty serious.
Right.
But even he was blown away by the Quran.
Like, what did he say about it?
He wrote that the Quran lays out great truths and the secrets of existence in a way that shows its unique greatness. He said that even though other books can have a deep impact, their effect is nothing compared to the Quran.
Wow, that's a pretty strong endorsement coming from him.
It is. And then there's John Davenport, the author of An Apology for Muhammad and the Quran.
Okay, I'm listening.
He talked about how the Quran is full of the most eloquent and splendid analogies, which he really admired.
Analogies, huh? That's interesting. Makes me think of Goethe, the poet.
Goethe, that's a great connection. He was actually really fascinated by the Quran.
Was he? What did he have to say?
Well, he admitted that it might not be the easiest book to grasp at first glance, but he also said that it's full of such profound beauty and wisdom,
Makes sense.
and he predicted that as our understanding of science grew, the Quran would gain even more attention.
Wow, that's pretty insightful, especially considering he lived way before all the major scientific discoveries of the 20th and 21st centuries.
Right. And you know, speaking of science, there was this French thinker named Jules Labaume.
Okay, never heard of him.
He basically said that the spread of science around the world was thanks to Muslims because they were inspired by the Quran, which he called the ocean of knowledge, and they shared that knowledge with the world.
That's really interesting because, you know, some people try to make it seem like science and religion are always at odds with each other.
Yeah, that's a common misconception.
But figures like these really challenge that idea.
They do. And it's not just about the historical impact either. It also has this profound effect on individuals on a personal level.
Like, how do you mean?
Well, there's Dr. Laura Vecchiavaglieri.
Oh, yeah, the Italian scholar. I've heard of her.
She was a leading figure in Islamic studies. She describes the Qur'an as a model of inimitability and says that its style is unmatched in literature. She even says that it couldn't have been written by someone who is just learned or worldly.
It's like she's echoing that challenge we talked about earlier, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like she's saying, if even the greatest minds can't replicate this, then what does that tell us?
It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it that way.
It is, and it brings us back to that sense of awe and wonder that we talked about earlier.
Right, that feeling that there's something bigger than us at play here.
Exactly. But, we're not just supposed to sit back and be amazed, are we?
You're right. What's the point of this challenge if it's not meant to make us think or act differently?
That's a great question, and I think the answer lies in realizing that the Qur'an's inimitability isn't just about its literary excellence.
Then what is it about?
It's a call to action.
A call to action.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that the Qur'an is a living document. It speaks to us on so many different levels.
So it's not just some ancient text that we admire from afar.
Exactly. It's a guide for our lives, a source of inspiration, and a challenge to our intellect and our hearts.
I like that. It's about engaging with it and letting it shape our understanding of the world.
Precisely.
It's amazing how these verses from Surah Al-Baqarah have opened up all these different avenues of thought.
Yeah, it's like they're this gateway to a deeper understanding of our place in the world.
Like we've talked about the scientific insights, historical figures who were inspired by the Quran, and even this sense of awe and wonder that it evokes.
It's amazing how it can speak to people from all walks of life, isn't it?
Totally. And there's this one thread that seems to run through it all.
You're right. There's this underlying theme that connects everything we've been discussing.
Exactly. It's like those blessings we discussed in the beginning aren't just there for us to enjoy. It's like they're pointing towards something bigger.
They are. They're pointing towards the interconnectedness of creation. Remember how those verses highlighted the earth as this resting place, the sky as this canopy, the life-giving rain? It's all part of this intricate web of life that sustains us.
It makes you realize that we're not just passive observers in all of this. We have a role to play, a responsibility to take care of this incredible gift we've been given.
Absolutely. The Quran repeatedly emphasizes the importance of gratitude, not just in words, but in actions.
So it's not enough to just say thank you. It's about actually living in a way that reflects that gratitude.
Precisely. It's about being mindful of our impact on the environment, treating others with kindness and compassion, striving to make the world a better place.
It makes you think about all the things we take for granted. The air we breathe, the food we eat, the relationships we have. These are all gifts, and it's our responsibility to appreciate them and use them wisely.
It is, isn't it?
And that brings us back to that challenge of the Quran's inimitability. It's not just about proving its divine origin.
Right. It's about so much more than that. It's about inspiring us to reach for something higher, to strive for excellence in all that we do.
It's like it's pushing us to be better versions of ourselves.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe that's the ultimate goal of the Quran's inimitability, to spark this flame within us, a desire to not just admire its beauty, but to actually embody its message of excellence, compassion, and gratitude in our own lives.
I love that. And I hope that's what our listeners are taking away from this deep dive.
Me too. That they're walking away with not just knowledge, but also a renewed sense of wonder and a deeper appreciation for the interconnectedness of everything around us.
And hopefully a little bit inspired to go out there and make their own unique contribution to the world, reflecting the beauty and wisdom they found in these verses.
That's the best we can hope for. Until next time.